You know, it's pretty amazing how a simple table of numbers can tell a story. A story with highs, lows, and some really surprising comebacks. Today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're unpacking a 2-year investment journey, and trust me, we're turning this cold, hard data into some pretty compelling drama.
Okay, so let's dive right in. Before we get into all the twists and turns, let's just cut to the chase. What's the one number everyone wants to see first? The bottom line, the final score.
And there you have it, a total gain of over 286,000 Singapore dollars in just 2 years. That is a seriously impressive figure. But the real story, and the reason we're here, is how. How on earth did this portfolio get to this number? What was the journey like?
To really get it, you have to understand that this wasn't a straight shot to the top, so we need to break it down. Let's peel back the layers and look at this as a tale of 2 very different years.
Now, this is where it starts to get really interesting. In 2024, the portfolio did great, a gain of just under $120,000. Very solid. But then, look at 2025. Whoa, it jumped to almost $167,000. The second year wasn't just a little better, it was a lot more profitable.
I mean, you can see it so clearly here. That's not just steady progress, that's a huge step up in performance. Something kicked this portfolio into a whole other gear in that second year. The big question is, what was driving that incredible growth?
To find out, we've got to pop the hood. We need to meet the individual players inside this portfolio and see who is really responsible for these numbers.
So here's the lineup. The portfolio was built around 5 key things. You've got your broad global index ETF, tracking companies all over the world. Then there's a local focus with the Singapore STI ETF. We've also got an S-REIT ETF, which is all about Singapore real estate. And then, for a little spice, a basket of China tech stocks and some big-name US tech stocks. It's a pretty well-rounded team. All right, so we've met the cast of characters. Now it's time for the performance review. Let's see how each of these investments actually did across our 2-year timeline.
Okay, here's the full breakdown. As you scan these numbers, you can spot the powerhouse, right? US tech was an absolute beast, just delivering strong, consistent gains both years. And hey, look at the local STI ETF. Solid in 2024 and then had an awesome run in 2025. But I want you to look at that third row, the S-REIT ETF. Something very, very different was happening right there.
And that brings us to the real plot twist in this whole story. We're going to zoom in, because this right here is a tale about one particular investment that went from, well, zero to hero. The ultimate comeback kid.
So which investment had the absolute wildest journey of them all? Well, let's start with Act 1 of its story.
Wow. In 2024, this Singapore REIT ETF was the only thing in the portfolio that was in the red. It lost over $9,000. It was the single biggest drag on the whole thing. You can imagine how easy it would have been to lose faith and just sell it off.
But then, 2025 happened. And what a comeback! It didn't just get its money back, it roared to life with a massive gain of over $42,000. It went from being the biggest loser to a massive winner, all in just 1 year. Absolutely incredible.
So what's the point of all this? What can we learn from it? Well, this one investment's wild ride actually teaches us some really timeless lessons about how to navigate the markets. Let's really distill the moral of this whole data story. It really boils down to 3 things. First, that S-REIT ETF proves that volatility is just part of the game. Things go up and down. Second, diversification works. While one asset was struggling, the others were doing well, keeping the whole portfolio healthy. And maybe the most important lesson of all, patience. Patience is what can turn what looks like a loser 1 year into a champion the next.
And that leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? We've been talking about investment data, sure, but the principle here is so much bigger. It kind of makes you ask a question for yourself. What loser in your own portfolio, or heck, in your own life, could be on the verge of its own incredible comeback if you just give it enough time?